Long haul truckers, what's the creepiest / most paranormal thing you've seen on the road at night? This is my father's story, and he wasn't a long haul trucker, but rather a 18-year-old gas station attendant in the late 70s. And without a certain long haul trucker I probably wouldn't be here. The gas station was 24 hours and my dad was the only one working the night shift, 11 to 7 I think. A guy comes in and just gives him the creeps. Seems sketchy. He was wearing tight jacket / pants and you could tell he had something in his pants under the jacket. It was during the summer and was warm, so why is he wearing a jacket to begin with? A lot of truck drivers used this station as it was the only one open 24 hours for a long stretch of the highway. They also had a big lot where they let truckers park and sleep or take a break. On this night at this time it was just my dad, sketchy dude, and one trucker in there he kinda knew, as in, came in frequent enough to be conversational, and asked if he'd stay in the station and hang out until sketchy dude left. Well, after looking at the stocked shelves for many minutes, while sneaking peeks at my dad behind the counter, the sketchy guy eventually looked fed up and got into his blue car and sped off. Cool trucker guy hung out with my dad a little longer until another couple of guys came in to use the booths they had to eat a sandwich. I should also point out this was pretty middle of nowhere rural southeast United States in the 1970s. CB and landline was it. My dad only had a landline in the store. So the hours pass, and my dad had shaken off the paranoia when all of a sudden this truck driver comes hauling ass into the lot, jumps out, and sprints into the store hollering he needs a phone. Calls 911 to report that he had walked in on a gas station 40 miles back, next closest station, to find the attendant shot and dead. No one else around. And the only other piece of information is that a blue car was speeding out of the lot when the trucker pulled in. Apparently they eventually apprehend the guy in the blue car. My dad confirms it was sketchy dude from earlier in the night, and they charge him with murder and armed robbery. To the long haul trucker who waited around with my dad that night, thanks, and hope you're keeping it real. Why do you think he didn't shoot your dad? Obviously the trucker was there, but it seems easy enough to just kill 2 people if needed. Did you ever find out the creep's motive, or did the trucker have some sort of defense weapon? Not 100% sure, but I'm guessing sketchy guy didn't want a 2-on-1 scenario. Maybe the cool trucker guy was an imposing figure? I've never asked what he looked like. Surely my dad wasn't, as he was a skin and bones teenager with a poofed up fro. He looked like a Q-tip. Maybe sketchy guy actually didn't have murder on his last list, but rather wanted the easy stick up and cash grab job. As for what went down in the other gas station, I guess shit hit the fan unfortunately. Maybe the other attendant tried to defend himself. My father didn't have any weapons, but I'm guessing some attendants kept one. I was coming back home from a trip from Michigan and I saw these people wearing cult-like robes. One in town, one on a highway, and one in a park, all staring at me. Did you approach the dog park? You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to acknowledge it either. The council would like to see you for e-education purposes. I'm a truck driver in the UK. Was driving through rural Scotland one night going down a country lane. All of a sudden I start to see flashing lights come through the trees. Lights of all colors flashing through the trees and causing some really freaky looking shadows on the road. I'm not a believer of aliens or anything, but my first thought was UFOs. Safe to say I put my foot down and got out of there. Found out the next day it was rave happening in a field. But at the time it didn't half scare me. What time of year was it? When the haggis first start tumbling off the hill, we have various dancing light rituals. The lights scare them into running the wrong way round to the hill and causes them to roll down into the hands of kids waiting to catch their first one. /s. Myself and 2 friends had to drive from Laredo, Texas to Baton Rouge, Louisiana one night in my Ford van. It was about 2 a.m. There is a particularly long and dark section of highway just outside Laredo, no buildings, towns, or lights for about 50 miles. I was in the right lane coming up on a truck and pulled out into the left passing lane. As I was slowly overtaking this long truck, my peripheral vision caught a sudden movement of this big truck towards the right shoulder. I saw the truck was swerving to avoid hitting a person dressed in all white face, whose arms were folded across the chest and eyes were closed as they walked across the highway. I swerved to the left and barely missed this ghostly looking person with my passenger mirror. Can still remember seeing that the eyes were closed. That's how close we came to hitting this person. Laredo TX. You could have stopped right there and I would have agreed on the creepy part. I have worked on Laredo a few times there and the whole town has an uneasy feel to it. Everything seems calm, but you know a lot of shady things are happening. One time I saw a turn signal on a BMW. Bullshit. Most unbelievable thing in this thread. I was listening to a radio station when this trucker called in. He said he saw a lot lizard get out of one truck, douche with a bottle of grape soda, and get into the next truck. Edit. Clarification. A lot lizard is a prostitute that works in a truck. Stop or rest stop. I'm only an amateur gynecologist, but that seems like a sure way to get a yeast infection. And diabetes. And AIDS. And ants. Creepiest. Driving I-40 I-30 through Texas and Arkansas, I would see what looked like animals/faces popping out of the bushes, but longer than a glance proved nothing there. They had just paved the highway, and there was hardly any traffic. I was dead tired. It was super dark. Highway hypnosis, I suppose. Paranormal. When I went to local driving, my route ran near an air reserve base in Indiana, so you'd see planes and helicopters pretty often. One night, about 2 AM, I was headed to pick up another load when I saw a bright green light in the corner of my windshield. It was too low to be an aircraft. It moved pretty slowly, then darted and I lost sight of it behind some trees I drove by. Typical I saw a UFO shit, but I still think it was just a helicopter or a jet that I saw at the prefect angle that turned after a takeoff. The jet pilots have broken the sound barrier over town a couple times in the past. Sonic boom. So a jet flying abnormally isn't necessarily out of the realm of possibility. Just batshit crazy. Driving south on I-75 in the winter in central Ohio, I witnessed a compact car like a Cobalt or similar get on the on-ramp to merge into I-75 north and lost control. They went sideways, fell at least 6 feet off the ramp, and onto the shoulder of the interstate, landing on all 4 wheels, spun 360 degrees, and then proceeded to merge into traffic like it was fucking nothing. Blew my fucking mind. The CB radio was going fucking nuts for about 5 minutes. Holy shit, who else just fucking saw that, etc. That place is a wreck magnet area. I'm not the least bit surprised that happened. My stepdad is a truck driver and I asked him this question and he gave me 3 answers. In Winston-Salem, NC, a guy was masturbating while driving by his truck and my stepdad threw his water bottle at him. Another time he said he was up near Oregon and he was the only one on the freeway at the time, since it was around 2 AM and something large and pale swooped down a few yards in front of his truck and swooped back up into the tree line. While driving at 70 miles per hour, a tire rolled ahead of him and went across the median, nearly hitting another car. I was driving in upstate New York in early spring during deer season, and not only were there deer everywhere you had to look out for, there was deer pieces strewn everywhere from cars hitting them, then more cars hitting the roadkill and so on. Literal deer chunks all over the roads. Gross. Upstate New Yorker here. Yeah, it gets pretty bad sometimes. Possums and trash pandas should also be watched for. One time a skunk was hit right outside my house, and it stank for a week. Same. You get used to the deer. Weirdest thing I ever saw in the road was this big black dog sniffing around in the middle of the road. I was on a straight patch of road surrounded by woods and the thing was a ways off, so I slowed down ahead of time and just kinda crept up on it while waiting for it to get out of the way. The closer I get, the bigger it's getting. Like, too big for a dog. And chubby. Suddenly it stands up on its hind legs and I almost freak out until I realize it's a damn bear. Luckily it was the middle of the day, otherwise I'd have lost it watching it stand. I slowly creep around it while keeping my eyes on it. I'm not too worried because it's a black bear, but still, when I suddenly hear a loud crack of a branch and I turn to see the much bigger mama bear about 10 feet from my open driver's side window. Longest few seconds of my life driving away from them. Saw a clown staggering down an alley in the city, back facing us, while we were coming to a stoplight at like 1 AM. Looked like he was still blowing balloons or masturbating. Not seeing his face made it more ominous. I'm not sure if it's either really creepy or sad. Maybe he was on his way to abduct children, or maybe he was blind drunk after a long day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Come back tomorrow for more videos. Subscribe to become cheese.